Um, so we've talked about Traverse City.
Yep.
Why would someone in Grand trust someone in Traverse City? Because Traverse City is kind of polarizing. There's the county and then there's the city. So what attributes do you have being in Traverse City that really speak to people in Grand, Acme, East Bay, really the rest of the county, which is the third fastest growing county in our state in terms of population growth?
Yeah. The answer is there's just no reason for someone in Grand to trust a guy from Traverse City. If I lived in Grand, I wouldn't either. And when I talk about why I want to do this, and when I talk to people about giving me a chance to do this and promising that I'm going to go to Lansing and fight for them, it's got nothing to do with the fact that I'm from Traverse City. I don't think that qualifies me to do anything. What I think qualifies me to do this is that I care about these issues. And I think that this system could be fairer to people. I think that everybody's entitled to an equal opportunity, and I don't think they're getting it. And so what I'm telling people and trying to convince people of is that I believe that to my core, and that I will fight every day to try and bring that about, because I don't think it's happening now, and it has to. And I also think that not enough people participate in this process. And one of the reasons that they don't is because they have this sense that it's not fair, and that people with more money have more say in the government than they do. And the fact is that they're right. And I believe that that's wrong too. And I'm going to fight to change that when I go to Lansing. And it's those beliefs and my passion for fighting to change those things that I think qualify me to run. And that's why I think folks in Grand will consider voting for me, not because I'm from Traverse City.
Dan, I want to talk about passion. A lot of people do a lot of different jobs, but it's different when you see someone working from passion. What does passion mean to you? How do you communicate your passion? And how does that translate into what this is about for you? Are you passionate about this?
I am passionate about this. To me, passion comes in a couple different forms, but the one that's most familiar to me is doing something because you believe that it needs to be done, that it's important to do the work, and you focus more on doing the work than on the result that you get at the end, because you believe that just in doing the work there's value in that. This campaign is a great example of that, because whether you get elected or not, this campaign is about going out and talking to people and telling them what you think the problems are, and with a basic solution of, we can do this better if we work hard at it. And so no matter what happens at the end of the campaign, if you've talked to 1,000 of your neighbors and they believe just a little bit more than they did before that things can be different, and that if they're willing to join in the fight, they can make change, you've accomplished a lot. And that's what I'm passionate about. What I'm passionate about is community coming together and working together. I'm less concerned with the solutions we come up with, because I'm just absolutely convinced most people are good-hearted, good-natured, they care about each other, and they care about their communities. And when you get them all together to work on something, you get good results.
Sure.
Yeah.
We're here today at Earth and Ales by the Commons.
Mm-hmm.
These are two really great stories. Earth and Ales is a small business that came up here, and they've got a beautiful facility. The intervenings with the Commons have taken something and renovated it into something I think is absolutely special. I want to talk about that in terms of the Traverse City story and what you see for your vision of the area when you're in Lansing. How do you help businesses come here and really do special things like these places are?
Well, first of all, I agree. It was my first time here. It was great beer,
right? I love the beer.
Yeah, you went with what?
Sweetbriar every time.
Sweetbriar.
I always do the wheat beer. It's excellent.
Do you?
I do.
See, I went with the IPA.
And how'd they do?
It's excellent.
Good.
It's excellent. I tend to go for the IPAs.
I'm not an IPA guy.
They're too heavy for you?
Yeah,
Is
it's
that
a
the
little
problem?
tangy.
Yeah.
It's a little tangy. The Sweet Briar, it's got that nice mellow strawberry thing. It's excellent.
You can get the little citrus notes in an IPA now. There were, I mean,
It's true.
You get almost anything you want in an IPA these days.
Yeah.
So you asked about the Commons, which is a great story.
Yeah.
So when I grew up, this place was still a working state hospital, and it closed sometime in the 70s, early 80s, and it changed the town a lot. Almost everybody, not almost, lots of folks I knew when I grew up worked at the state hospital. They used to wear a uniform, right? They wore white shirt and pants. And whether you were an orderly or worked at the cafeteria or maintenance, they all had that uniform, and you'd see people downtown. You always knew who worked here. We had two neighbors on our block that worked at the state hospital, so it was a big employer. And so when it closed, there was some hardship in town. A lot of folks lost their job, and as an idyllic place as it is now. You know, my memories of it as a kid are not like that, because there was a lot of people here who suffered a lot. It was people from across the region, right? This was the hospital where they treated mental illness across the region. So there were a lot of families who had members with mental illness, and a lot of people with severe mental illness were here. So when it closed, it did what most facilities like this do. It just slowly sort of started to crumble. But you look around, it's such a beautiful site that there were a few folks in town who were just absolutely determined to turn it into something different. And they were here. They were here with the bulldozers. They were ready to take this place down. And a woman, Carol Hale, in town had put together a group, and they stopped it. And they bought it for $1 from the state, because state wanted it off the books. And they set about figuring out what to do with it. And I happened to be on a planning commission at that time. And there were a couple of different proposals. And we went through long planning processes with a group of investors out of Chicago and another group of investors out of New Jersey, I think. Pretty slick sort of real estate developers who just couldn't make it work. And that process took years. And while that process went on, the place continued to crumble. And I worried about this place, because it has, I don't know if you know it or not, but the acreage of the Commons is almost the exact same percentage of Traverse City that Central Park represents to the city of New York.
No way.
Yeah, true. Little known
cool.
fact, true. So if you picture the growth of the city,
Sure.
If we don't get this piece right, it's going to have an impact.
Sure.
And if we get it right, it's going to have a huge impact. So we were all very, very worried that we weren't going to find a way to redevelop this. And it's continuing to deteriorate. And I remember the night that Ray Minervini, in his pickup truck and his blue jeans, comes into the planning commission and says, I don't know what's going to happen up there, and I don't know how we're going to do this, but rain is pouring through the roof on building 50. Let's just put a roof on that. We're going to start with that, and then we'll see where this goes. And we said, if you think you can do that, that sounds great to us. We'll give you some development rights, right, so that you'll have some control over where it goes from there. And Ray started to work. And it has been fits and starts. But every time I come to a festival on the lawn, and I run into Ray, and we hug each other, and both say, look at this community, look what happened here. Isn't this just exactly what we thought? And I can tell you that neither of us probably thought that this is what it was going to become. We were both scared to death, but we both say, yeah, this is exactly what we thought it was going to become. It's a great story. It's a great Traverse City story. I'm really proud of him, and I'm proud of the community. And I'm really proud of this place.
Traverse City recently was named the strongest town in America. Cool thing, I know, right?
Yeah.
But we didn't get there overnight. It was built on planning years ago. And you were on the planning commission. And you had a vision for what you thought Traverse City would be. And it wasn't strip malls. Talk to me about that vision and what you see today in Traverse City.
Well, you're right. Planning is a really important thing in terms of create. Planning has been a really important thing in creating the city that we have today. But there's also been a good deal of luck that we've had. The Commons and Raymond Irvini are a good example of that. And not so much the planning commission and the planning department and the city commission, but just some passionate people in the city who had an idea for what it could be and just kept that kind of pressure on all the time. Because there have been lots of times in this city where we could have taken what I always consider to be the easier path. When I was on the planning commission, we battled all the time about the width of the streets and the width of the intersections, right? And sidewalks, how easy it was to get across the street or ride your bike across town. And there were lots of people that thought that that was just nonsense. That the only question we should be asking is, how long does it take me to drive across town? And that we should widen 8th Street to 4 or 5 lanes, right? And we should widen every street that literally, if you had to touch your brakes on a street somewhere in town, we ought to add a couple lanes to it. That was the concept.
Sure.
And you laugh, but it's true. And it took significant will by people to prevent that from happening. And we fought it literally one intersection at a time. And our current city planner, Russ Sawyer, I learned a ton of planning from him. He's been a great leader on these issues. And he taught me about how, the question isn't how long it takes to drive down the street. The question that will produce the kind of town that we want is, how long does it take to cross the street if I'm walking? That's the critical measurement that we have to make. And we have a plan. Cities always had a plan. Some of them were more forward-looking than others. You go back and look at some of the plans in the 70s, and you'd shudder at some of the things that how they thought this town was going to look. I mean, there was a time when we had adopted this plan that was very suburban looking, where buildings had to be set back from the street, and you had to put a parking lot in front of it. Now, again, we're talking about luck, right? So where Little Fleet sits today used to be a place called Jack's Party Store. It's a great store. We used to go in there all the time. And it was just a little small town party store that sold newspapers, candy, and booze. And it burned. And when it burned, our zoning ordinance at the time, which was a suburban zoning ordinance, wouldn't allow them to rebuild it on the street. So they had to push the building back, and they rebuilt it, and they were required to put that parking lot in front of it. And if you remember, it didn't work very well for Jack's. It never fit on that street. It wasn't a comfortable place to walk to because you had to walk through the parking lot. And again, in a bit of luck, it works great for Little Fleet, right? Which is a great example of this town. You take a terrible mistake by the planning department, right? And you take some smart people who know how to serve beer and bring in food trucks, and boom, you got a great hot spot. And the other thing about planning is that the Commons is another great example, in that we didn't know what it would become. I assure you, Raymond Irvini didn't know what it would become. But the way that it came together created what it is. This could be a Walmart. Believe me, this could be almost anything.
Sure.
But because of the way that it came together in small little pieces, you got businesses, right, that could get a start here, like Higher Grounds and Left Foot Charlie's, and the businesses that are in the Mercado that could get reasonable space, right, reasonably priced space to do things that really aren't all that traditional. It was really tough for them to find a spot downtown, but here was a place that they could come, start their business, figure it out, which they did, and now they're among the most successful businesses in town. So it takes a little planning, but it also takes a lot of luck.